course he's failing, right? There's no one could do it. I don't even do it all the time, but I don't remember those times. I would remember his times, right? And create disconnection, and it was just ineffective in our relationship. That was really beautifully said.
Yeah. Welcome, my name is Jessica Lewis. I'm the founder of Rise Up Queens, where I help women step into the freedom that Christ died for. Here on this channel, you will find many topics on physical intimacy, porn and working through that in your marriage, communication, triggers, and so much more. I hope you dive in with me and subscribe and create the best marriage you possibly can with your spouse right now.
So in today's video, we're going to talk about some ways that don't work in your marriage, things that are causing disconnection and fighting that don't necessarily have to. So I have a beautiful panel of our Rise Up Queens coaches who have radically transformed their marriage and their relationships by choosing different ways of being that they didn't even know were possible before.
One of the things coming up for me is that I used to speak death over Kyle every single day without realizing it. I criticized everything that he did, or I had a comment or something to judge or improve. And I created an environment where I was insistent that he be like me. And it made him feel like a failure. It made him feel like he couldn't show up and meet my standards and my expectations. And eventually it just deflated him. And so the big shift for me was realizing that God created us united and gave me the unique and individual ability to speak life into him in a way that can change him. And I could be an example of Jesus's light in his life, and just shifting my words, shifting the way I spoke to him, I stopped tearing him down and I was able to build him up.
It brings to light that I'm sure when you think about your husband, you have different giftings. And I also used to think Skylar was supposed to be just like me. Like, he should argue like me. He should raise the kids like me. He should put them to bed like me. He should load the dishwasher like he should do everything like me. And I didn't realize that was, for me, pride and self-righteousness, right? And then I brought that pride and self-righteousness with this perfectionist standard, and of course he's failing, right? There's no one could do it. I don't even do it all the time, but I don't remember those times. I would remember his times, right? And create disconnection, and it was just ineffective in our relationship. That was really beautifully said.
Yeah, 100%. I resonate with all of that. One thing that really has come up for me is after going through my first Rise Up Queens event, I found the language for it, and it was dehumanizing. I dehumanized BJ. Like, I was the master of invalidating his experiences. And so, like, since through my journey in Rise Up Queens, I've learned to validate my own experiences. Like, I was projecting that on him. And so since I've learned how to validate my own experiences, my own feelings, my own emotions, be present with myself, I can now sit with him and I can see him as a human, and I can validate what he's experiencing. And sometimes literally, like, it's not easy every day, right? Sometimes it's literally like we're in a heated conversation and he's telling me how he feels, and I want to immediately like respond, but no, this is what's happening for me. And I literally will like, okay, take a deep breath. What is he saying? And like, could that actually be true for him? Does he actually feel disrespected or whatever it is that he's expressing to me? And okay, yes, I can see why you would feel that way. And sometimes that means I tell him, I see how you can feel that way, and my body is still reacting. My nervous system still wants to fight, so like I need a minute. Like, just give me the time to like get myself back to a neutral place.
When you think about your upbringing and your husband's upbringing, they are two completely different things. And so you're going to have two completely different sets of trigger patterns. And so what doesn't feel like disrespect to one person will feel like disrespect to another person. And can you see past your own being right long enough to see that there might be a hurting person sitting in front of you? Or are you so focused on, but I'm right about this, and this is what's going on, and you shouldn't feel that, and that's not right? Or what Christy just modeled well is, okay, you know what? Just because you have something different doesn't mean I'm wrong, because it's not even about right and wrong, right? It's just about what's happening, our perception of what's happening. And I don't know about you, but sometimes feelings are big sometimes. And then once I feel hurt in them, they're not so big anymore.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I just want to know that it's okay to have feelings and that I'm allowed, and you can validate them. Because when they don't, for me, I get bigger. I'm like, oh, you're not gonna believe me? Let's fight about this then. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold this. And so that was beautiful. And man, I might not feel that way. Don't say that, right? I might not feel that way, but how could that possibly be going on for them? Like, can you turn your chair enough to sit from their perspective? And from there, once people feel heard, resolution can come about. But until that, it's just not possible.
Yeah, what's been so pivotal for me is to, like I said, be able to validate my own experiences so we can go back and forth. Like, I need you to hear me, right? But now I've grown to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm okay. I can feel this and I don't need him to agree or validate what I'm experiencing. And I can sit and see this other person across from me. Whereas before, he was not even a human to me. He was, I don't even know. It was like
Obstacle or an
yeah,
object?
something to fight against
Yeah, he was the enemy.
to provide safety for myself, right?
to
It
bring
wasn't even
alignment.
about him. It was about me needing safety for myself. And since I've learned how to do that for myself, I can show up in relationship and I can see him as another human being.
So powerful, because I used to look for safety outside of me. I used to look for, am I lovable? Am I enough? I used to look for all of that
Yeah.
in Skylar. And because he's imperfect, of course I wouldn't get it all the time.
Right.
And then I would blame him. But that's not his job. That's the Lord's job, and that's my job, right? It's just not, it's not his.
It's so interesting that you say that, because like I was just sitting here thinking and I was like, that was me. Like, Robert had to know everything about me, right? Like, he had to know my heart. He had to understand my feelings, and I wouldn't communicate them with him. I was just like, you know them, right? And so like that was like the biggest transformation in me, and then in our marriage, was being able to like say, hey, this is how I feel, whether you want to validate it or not, this is how I feel. And then for him to just like have his own opinion, but even more than that, like him to show up for me then. Like, right? Because I wasn't even allowing him to show up for me because I wasn't expressing what I needed, what I really wanted in our relationship. It was just like this guessing game for him. Like, I mean, I remember like just hearing all the time, I don't know what you want. You're just making me guess, right? And I'm like, I would get so frustrated at that because I was like, you do know, you're married to me. We do everything together, right? You should know my ins and outs. And yet he's not in my brain. And I change every day, right? Like, so like something I liked yesterday, I might not like today. And I'm not saying that to him. And so like, I was sitting there thinking when Christy was talking and she was like, you know, he can have his own feelings. And I was like, but I was so wrapped up in mine and keeping them quiet. Like, I didn't even let him have his feelings because but then I wasn't even communicating. So he couldn't even like express that back to me.
So if you're still in a place where you're expecting your husband to read your mind, bubble burster, they're gonna get it wrong, right? And oftentimes what I found, I don't know if this was true for you, is most women that expect their husbands to read their mind, they don't even take the time to know what they want. Right? They're like, you're supposed to know,
Yeah.
but like, wait, but what do you want? Well, I don't know, right? I haven't thought about it. Yet somehow this man, completely different creature being, right? I mean, he's a human, right? But like, they have different wants, needs, and desires, as we know. They're different. And so giving yourself permission to say those things out loud is so powerful. And recognizing that you were giving him something that wasn't his to have, it was yours.
And it also helped me to be fully known. Like, right? Like, I was hiding something from him. I was keeping something from him. The ability to fully know me, right? And even like the ugly part of me, he got to see that and know that. And then I could be like, I could allow him to love me in that and be like, I am lovable. I am enough, even though in this moment I feel ugly.
So if you feel ugly or can relate to any of those things, I know I can, we'd love for you to join us. Rise Up Kings and Queens, is a transformational event. And so I'd love to personally work with you in creating the best marriage full of passion, connection, and oneness that's possible. And if you're like, well, I don't know that that's possible, yes, come, because I am 100% certain it is. So I'd love to see you there.